Good morning, everyone. My name is Fred Munga from Integrity Business Services, and on behalf of eTraining, I'll be presenting to you the webinar called Training and Support. This is for BSBHRM506 Managed Recruitment, Selection, and Induction Processes. So, what does this webinar entail? This webinar, we're going to cover uh, overall training process, different laying styles, training methods and support, and monitoring and evaluation. Let's begin. So, what are the factors that affect training? Technology, for instance. That's factor number one. It affects training, and technology is really digitally taken over. So people can be trained through various digital methods and gadgets. And the budget, number two, affects training. How much is available to give out to spend on training? And job changes and new positions is another factor. When jobs changes and the things that you do, people require training. External factors like new knowledge and techniques that are on the market, learners' needs. There could be a gap within the learner, and organizational policies. So these affect training. Let's look at the training flowchart. So first thing that you need to develop a training policy. That means under what rules or guidelines should people be trained? At what point do you determine someone needs training? So your training and development policy will actually guide you on when to decide that somebody needs training. And then you go to conduct needs training analysis. Once you have your policy, conduct training needs analysis that determines the gap, what training is required, and what that person is supposed to achieve. And then you develop and write the objectives. So, what are the key performance indicators that should be achieved in there? And how do you monitor that the training is being carried out in the way it should be? And once you develop all those evaluation methods, monitoring methods, then now you're going to delivering the training. So when you deliver the training, you're going to have to design, before you deliver the training, probably identify the personnel that is required. Who needs to go into this training? What qualifications will they have? What will they achieve when they finish the training? What certification do they require? Is it an international certification like ISO 2000? Is it something that is just recognizable within the company or something that is recognizable within the industry? So, based on that, if the person is to be recognized within the industry as an expert, you will then decide the type of training, the method that is required, the tools to support such training. And then once you decide the certification, you decide the method that's be there, you design the training program. Whether that program is done online, face to face, externally, internally, that is how you design what sort of equipment is required to do that. And after designing that, you deliver the training. Further, evaluate how the training goes. During the training, well, after the training, you have feedback forms that the people that have been trained can fill in and write and give their feedback, reviews, and see what needs to be changed, what can be improved. Did the training meet their needs? Is this something they understood? Does this training help them in their current jobs or future jobs? Is this something, worth their time, or maybe the training was just below their standards? So evaluating that training helps you refine the training process and the training methodologies. So, which leads us to the needs analysis. How do you determine the needs analysis? Well, first of all, you got to compare with other organizations to say this particular expertise is done or by people with so much experience, with so much skill, and by comparing what you have, what other organizations are achieving with that skill, you looked at it yourself and say, well, are we achieving better or lower than them? You identify the skills, identify the knowledge that's required for those jobs, and you look at competence gaps. So if there are any competence gaps, you look at how do you fill those gaps. Uh, can this be filled through training, through development of the people that are there, or you actually need outsiders to come and fill that gap? Whether that gap can be filled in temporarily or something that needs to be permanently field, which in this case you might probably have to go hire outside or promote within and train the people that are within there if they have the necessary skill, the necessary qualifications, and they just lack that kind of training to fill the gap. So that is part of using your existing human resources. And if you don't have anyone within those with those skills, that is when now you look outside to fill that gap. And also you identify support systems that are required, which in turn you document. Why do you need documentation? When such scenario arises again, you go back to your documentation and follow what you did previously. So in doing that, you'll be making sure that you are aligning with your objectives. Your training objectives must align with your mission and vision. So they should have a specific purpose, a specific time frame, and it must be written clearly, readable English, understandable by the people that are supposed to receive this training, and it should be able to be shared and monitored. So like in huge organizations, this could be put into a common drive. And you've got to be aware that as you design your training, part of that, you need to keep in mind the learning styles of your learners. Different learners come from different backgrounds, with different learning styles. For instance, you could have some that are very visual, some that are auditory, and there's some people probably they're very kinesthetic. They will only learn best when they're actually doing it. Well, recently there've been research to determine that there are some people that are musical, that means rhythmic, and some that are naturalist. Based on your interpersonal skills, that also does help in learners adjusting to your teaching style, adjusting to the learning styles that are available that are put there. So key things to remember: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And once you have those in hand, making sure that your training material, your training program covers those three key areas. So what methods do you use? There's this e-learning, which is interactive. There's a support base that you can use. There's intranet base. That means most companies will have most of that information on their local database, and there could be instructions. People also learn through video conferencing and face-to-face, through role plays, observation, feedback, visuals and charts, and so all those various these days, like we're speaking through webinars, people are learning through webinars as well. So what are some of the training tasks? They can be done through workshops, interview techniques, mentoring, writing documents, observation, giving feedback. So the training tasks are very varied, very, very varied. Role play is a training task. Um, the job simulation is a training task that also is done, especially with some of those machinery jobs or software jobs. There's a lot of software simulation as well. So what does the training program need to be? It needs to use various training methods. It needs to be varied. It must have ongoing support. It must promote hands-on learning. It must cater for special needs, whether there be language barriers, literacy barriers, numeracy, disabilities. So your training has got to be so flexible that any learner from with any disability can be able to be accommodated. And most importantly, it must comply with the legislation to meet the requirements. So how do you evaluate? The evaluation cycle is, number one, you got to know the objectives, have a policy and procedures. And number two, you got to develop KPIs to indicate objective achievement. Why this is important? You don't want this to define and design a training program that does not achieve anything. Because why? Within the organization, it might not pass the test of a budget. So, and you need to collect and monitor evidence of performance. That means during your learners, there's to be that performance evidence, or that is done probably through giving exams, through giving probably oral evidence, and that evidence could be through written works, case studies, answering of those, could be answering theory questions, written essays, whatever it may be. But there has to be a proof that the learner is actually competently completed the training, and there's to be evidence-based. And those results will be analyzed. Based on that analysis, then the trainer can decide whether that person has been competent or not competent. Then that gives value to the certification that they get. And in most instances, if it's an industry certification, those results and evidence must be kept for future proof, which takes us to our monitoring and evaluation tools. So how do you monitor this? You got to have checklists, you got to have recorded notes, follow-up conversations, you got to have observation charts, observation scenarios, there'll be reviews and appraisals, surveys from learners, and official forms, logging, evaluation. Feedback can be oral or written, and these days most feedback is given online. Evaluation forms, these are found on most training organizations, are found in most intranets, and you can go online and evaluate the trainer or evaluate the training itself, the design. The advantages, it gives an opportunity for the organization to improve its training skills, to improve the material, or there be additional, or maybe the material is good, but just the program does not suit the learner. So whatever it may be, it's an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for efficiency, an opportunity for it to look better. So there you have it, training, recruitment, and all these things, and monitoring and evaluation, key things that we've spoken about today. As we conclude this webinar, a reminder to you to do your self-paced activities in your student workbook, recheck all that we have spoken about, go to our website, log in, give us a review. Thanks for listening.